All right, this is Sean, and I'm going to take you through some of the changes that have gone through into our latest release. Right, so this release is mostly about multi-currency. It's quite a significant release, although you might not notice too much difference. It is really significant. So multi-currency, we've had multi-currency in Fiskl for quite a long time in invoices, expenses, also in accounting for internal transfers, multi-currency chart of accounts, but now we've taken that a little bit further. So let me demonstrate what we've got. So if I go to accounting and we go to our chart of accounts, the chart of accounts has changed a little bit as well. There's different rules about what accounts can be created and sub-accounts and more multi-currency options. Right, so let's say we have our Chase Bank connected and I have a Chase Bank account here. I've got 2 transactions. And what we can do now is we can match different currency transactions. So here I've got a $252 transaction, but I know that this is for an accounts payable transaction that I registered, but that payable is in GBP, right? So I've been paid in a different currency, but that doesn't matter. I can still now choose to match that, and by unchecking the only show these items, I can see that this is my transaction that I chose. So what's happened here? So we've we have a 200 and we raised this accounts payable for £200 that we were expecting, but we were actually paid in US dollars. So now we've managed to match that, and you can match across different currencies throughout the accounting now. You also have full control over editing the rates, add-in lines, and splitting in this, and also editing the actual rate that you have for the transaction. So we'll just update that. Then to just demonstrate another example, I have a transaction which is just a $500 transaction. But what you can do now is, apart from matching this or doing internal transfers, you can also split this. So you can say, oh, you know what, this sale of 500 was actually included, 25 was actually part of a service, but this was a euro service, and I had 50, and this was we'd call this the sales of the product, and this was actually in a different currency. Let's just say this is in GBP, and then the rest was in US dollars. And maybe this doesn't quite match. Maybe it's this amount, and we now have a mismatch. So now you can choose how to auto adjust this. So some platforms automatically adjust this with rate. We've chosen to give you the option. So now what you can do is you can choose which currency you want to auto adjust, and it will adjust it for you. So I'm going to choose to adjust it on the GBP amount, and it'll tell you what rate the change is going to be. So we can click that, and now this transaction is pretty much finished. You can do all your usual stuff like add clients, taxes, and update. Okay, so as far as manual transactions, multi-currency taxes, and splitting and matching, that's fine. Now by adding this, we've been able to add one of our long-running features, which is feature requests, which is the Stripe banking. So Stripe banking meaning just Stripe as a data feed. So, as some of you will be aware, in integrations, you can connect your Stripe. So this you can think of as your Stripe payment. And I have my Stripe payment account connected, and I've raised a couple of invoices and paid them for this demonstration. And now what I'm going to do is demonstrate, processing those transactions. So one of the challenges you have with Stripe, and if I go to Stripe account here into our balances, one of the payments you have here, the challenges you have. So I was saying one of the challenges that you have with Stripe is you can do many different transactions from many different locations, not just invoices within Fiskl. And all these transactions come with their own fees. There's refunds, and it's all quite difficult to manage. And to top that off, Stripe only pays out in currencies that you have your bank linked for and currencies they support. So for example, you can take, I think, payments in over 60 currencies, but you can only get paid out in 12. So here what I've got is I've got a GBP bank connected, a US bank connected, and a Euro bank connected. And when I connect my Stripe account, I will get 3 accounts. representing these 3 accounts that are in Stripe. So if we go back to Fiskl now, what we can do now is go through the process of connecting this. So before I connect, I'm just going to run you through the invoices that I created. So what I've created here is I've created a GBP invoice, a US dollar invoice, and a South African rands invoice. And so this one is interesting. So when we get paid out for this, we will get paid out in the home currency of your Stripe account. So if that was in the US, you get paid out in US dollars, in Europe, euros, and in the UK, GBP. So this one will get paid out in GBP in this case. And what happens in Stripe is these transactions will go into your balance and will be reflected in the accounting platform, and then you will get the payout at the end of the week or whatever your schedule is. Right. So let's jump into this. So we'll go to banking and we'll choose to connect to Stripe. Right. So here you have a couple of options. When do you want to, from what date do you want to process your transactions? Generally, this is the beginning of your financial year. I'm just going to choose all for this case, but be careful, this can pull in a lot of transactions if you've got a big account. Then you can choose to create clients. These are only Stripe customers that are created with invoices and are available in Stripe, and vendors are only for card issuing transactions. All right, so let's go ahead and click this. So this is the normal process with connecting with Stripe. You get to ask and you get to log in. And you go through the normal process of logging in. So this is, if you're doing this and you don't have a Stripe account, this is where you would create a Stripe account. And here you get a choice. I've got 3 accounts in 2 sub accounts. I'm going to choose my demo 1 account, and I'm going to connect this. That's because I use demo 1 to pay those invoices. Right, so then you'll come back to Fiskl and you'll notice that we'll get 3 accounts, and these are the 3 representing the balances within your Stripe that I showed you. You might notice a few warnings while it's pulling in transactions and it's trying to tell you that balances don't match, but once that all finishes up, there'll be no mismatch. Right, so what we've got now is we've got all our Euro transactions, all our pound, and all our USD transactions. So if we actually open up and have a look what it's brought in, we'll see that we brought in a couple of transactions. This is an issuing transaction, and what's really interesting is we've now brought in these transactions which we receive payment for the invoices that I created earlier. So what's happened with these is they've actually just auto-reconciled. So we know that we had this invoice for £2,328. We received the transaction from Stripe, and in that transaction it's telling us that this is the amount and this is the amount of fees, and we managed to auto-reconcile that. But where this gets really interesting is in currencies. So this invoice, remember, was the South African rand invoice, and what it's telling us is actually we've got a £240 payout, and it manages to reconcile that payout with that South African rand invoice, as well as creating all the fees and the payment processing fees and allocating it to the correct accounts. So this is a huge time saver, and also you don't miss refunds, you don't miss tax fees, and this is all real time. So pretty much real time. We only fetch in every few minutes. So this is a real time saver for the Stripe transactions. So what do you see? So you'll see, if we go back to our Stripe account, everything in your Stripe account that makes up a transaction or a balance is reflected inside Fiskl in the transaction list. You'll notice that these balances don't quite match what we have if we go back to our banking, and that is because these balances that we see represent the not only the balance of the account, but also what's pending in the balance, and also what is in the issuing balance. So all of these make up your balance. So it's just like a representation of a bank account. Right, so now what do you need to do? Now you don't have to categorize any of your transactions, but there is one thing you still need to do, and that will be to manage your payouts, right? So now, normally a payout can have, when you get a payout into a bank account, it can have hundreds of transactions in it, and that's what makes it so difficult. It can have hundreds of transactions along with many different currencies, all converted to the one currency. So if we go back to our chart of accounts, to demonstrate this, in my HSBC bank here, I've got one of my payouts. So now, instead of having to categorize every single transaction, the only thing you now need to do is look for the payouts, right? So the only thing we have to do, so I'm just going to go back in time a little bit on this one. Even I'm getting it wrong. So you need to choose internal transfer. And in the internal transfer, we can look for that Stripe payout. So all what you're trying to do here is you're trying to link the payout. You're trying to say, look, the money is flowing out of my Stripe GBP bank account. You can think of it as a bank account into my HSBC bank account. But this is an internal transfer between two because it's not counting as income, right, or expenses, right? So what all we're saying is we're recording a shift of money from one account to the next. So now, instead of coming to your bank account and trying to reconcile all your invoices and your expenses from one single payout, you now have those all reconciled inside their Stripe accounts, and all you do is manage the internal transfer, right? So that's getting close to the end of what we've added. There's lots of small updates. One of the other updates, which is a request as well, and that is in invoicing, not particularly invoicing, but you can now, if you filter by client, so for example, let's say we filter by Giovanni, you now see that we have this sort of mini overview of that client, average overdue and time. So this was paid instantly today, so there's no overdue. And then what you can do is link to your statement of accounts, which is another report that we've developed to complement the other one. So this is a new report. You can come to it directly from the reports page, and you can go through, and you can choose a date, and it's just a general statement of accounts. What's interesting is if you send this out to the customer, their link will take them to the actual payment page of this. So if they click on the link, they'll go directly to their payment page or to download the receipt of their invoice. And that pretty much wraps up the big change that we've done. So yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it was a really significant update and really lays the foundation for, multi-currency, almost completes the multi-currency. A few more tasks on top of this, some more reports, but that's really sophisticated multi-currency accounting throughout all the plans. Okay, well anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any feedback, let me know. Thanks.